You know, I used to, no, I always have enjoyed marriages, and then they started involving my daughters, and it came a lot harder. But
Yes, sir.
Anyway, you know, the day has arrived, and there's been a lot of planning in the last 3 months. There have been a lot of things going on in the last year and a half, but to understand that God's planning has been for 20 plus years. Hannah is a hard worker. She's diligent. She's committed to family, and she will sacrifice for family. She's been doing that for 20 plus years. And today, that just changes to where you get that blessing. And I believe God has called each one of you to each other today. And so what a joy it is to celebrate that. And so it is her mother and I would say our whole family, that surrender her and give her to be your wife.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I didn't put up any videos on Friday, and last week I only did videos 3 days of the week, and I apologize again. March was a really weird week. I'm working on this project behind the scenes that I can't tell you about yet, but soon enough I will be able to. And right now, I have some news about a Douglet getting married. I decided that I'm going to call the kids the Douglets because Duggar just feels like a really icky word these days. So over the weekend on Saturday, actually, Jeremiah Duggar married Hannah Wissmann. And the tears are those of women that were waiting for Jeremiah to wed them. I don't know if they're a hot commodity these days, but Jeremiah and Hannah's relationship, though it appeared to be a fast one, was not a fast one. In fact, they had been dating for over a year and a half before they got married. So the wedding actually took place back in Nebraska, up in Nebraska, because they're down in Arkansas. Wow. The two will be nestling down in Arkansas, where Jeremiah has a flying business and other construction stuff that he does with his dad, because the Duggar boys all work with Jim Bob. The wedding was pretty, I would say, standard. It was actually a short ceremony when it comes to the Duggars. I was shocked at how short it was. Some of my subscribers who were invited shared a link to the ceremony with me, and I was able to watch portions of it. The vows were pretty typical for the Duggars. There was some discussion about surrendering the daughter to Jeremiah. Hannah's dad said that Hannah is a very loving and sacrificial woman who does everything for her family, and he was surrendering Hannah to Jeremiah, and her father was crying. You could hear it in his voice when he was giving her away. Then during the vows, which I thought were really odd, it had their pastor from Arkansas, Noel, who is the pastor at Gospel Light Baptist Church, which is the new church the Duggars are a part of because they have gotten into it with every other church in the area, and that's just their latest pastor. So Noel is a fundamentalist Baptist, and it's an IFB church, and it was a weird ceremony, if I'm going to be completely honest. I was actually kind of shocked at how much Noel talked about himself during the ceremony, but it's just always odd to me when pastors make a wedding about themselves. He was talking about trips that he took to Israel and how he gets advice from older people, and that's what you should do when you're getting married. And then in the actual vows, they said that they wrote them themselves, although they sounded relatively traditional to me for the IBLP. I shared portions of the vows with all of you on Instagram, and some of you guys were kind of upset because Hannah's were about submitting, respecting, and honoring and following, and Jeremiah's vows were about leading, providing financially, and being the husband that takes control, and she's the one that's going to submit unto God.
I, Jeremiah Robert.
I, Jeremiah Robert.
Take you, Hannah Marlis.
Take you, Hannah Marlis.
To be my wife.
To be my wife.
By God's grace.
By God's grace,
I promise to cherish,
I promise to cherish,
protect, and provide
protect, and provide
for you from this day forward.
for you from this day forward.
Hannah, I love you with all my heart,
Hannah, I love you with all of my heart,
gladly forsaking all others.
gladly forsaking all others.
I vow to be faithful to you
I vow to be faithful to you
as long as we both shall live.
as long as we both shall live.
By God's grace,
By God's grace,
I promise to cherish, support,
I promise to cherish, support,
and respect you
and respect you
from this day forward.
from this day forward.
I will earnestly seek God
I will earnestly seek God
and will follow,
and will follow,
honor, and submit to you
honor, and submit to you
as unto the Lord.
as unto the Lord.
For better.
So if you were expecting like a big change in the vows, you would be just not. There was no change in the vows. I thought these vows were a little bit more human than his brother Jed when he got married. Jed and Katie's like entire wedding was extremely transactional, and it felt like they were reading from a book from the IBLP. This one was a little bit more humanized, and there was a little bit more thought and emotion in it. And obviously we saw them give their first kiss during the ceremony, which was they put off confetti. So Hannah shared some photos on her Instagram, and then the Duggars returned to Instagram to actually break their silence. They hadn't posted in months. The Duggar family said this: "We are so happy to celebrate with Jeremiah and Hannah at their beautiful wedding yesterday. Congratulations on this exciting new chapter in your lives as husband and wife, Jer and Hannah. What a gorgeous bride and groom." And that was a comment from Bates family who were in attendance. I actually saw Gil in the audience as they were panning out when they were like leaving the auditorium or leaving the sanctuary of the church at the end of the service. And if you were wondering like what siblings were there, it was hard to make out who was there, but in the audience I did see Jeremy below, and then Ginger shared photos that she was there at the wedding. I also saw Jessa and Ben. I saw John and Abby. I saw Josiah and Lauren. Katie Nakatsu was sitting with in the family section. Jed was actually the best man, and James, Jason, and Joseph were his he only had four total people in his wedding party, which I thought was small. If you think of it, these wedding parties are generally pretty big. I didn't see if Claire and Justin were there. It doesn't mean they weren't there. And, you know, the only one I couldn't notice in terms of like an older sister was Jill and Derek. I don't know if they went. Recently, they had come down with COVID, and she is also pregnant. So I don't know if they wanted to make the trip to Nebraska. And the last I had checked, one of the boys was actually positive for COVID, so they might not have gone just to be safe. But again, it was super hard to see the audience, so I don't know if they were there or they weren't there. They didn't post any photographs from the wedding. Obviously, Jim, Bob, and Michelle were there, and the younger girls were there. And then obviously we saw, you know, the oldest. Oh, and Joy and Austin were there as well. So most of the siblings made it to the wedding in Nebraska, which I guess is a good thing. Did not see Anna. Doesn't mean she wasn't there. She could have been sitting further back. The way that this all panned out in the photographs, it was a tricky shot because they had the camera way far in the back. And so you could only see, like, if you looked like really close up, and you couldn't tell. Like, there was one point when Katie was walking in, and I was like, whoa, that's a pregnant woman. Who is that? And immediately I thought it was Anna. I mean, who else is like, is Anna pregnant again? Yeah, but it wasn't. It was Katie's. Obviously, plenty of the family was there, and they made the trip to Nebraska. So there's a bunch of family there at the event, and then the wedding photographer, who is Emily Mitten, she actually shared a bunch of photographs on her Instagram. Hannah was wearing a dress by Dresses by Renee, who did the dresses for Abby, and I think one of the other sisters you guys had mentioned. Ginger shared some photos of her with her youngest sisters. Jeremy and her were there with their girls. The Wissmann family said, "Congratulations to the new Mr. and Mrs. Jeremiah Duggar. We love you both so much, and we're excited to see what God has for you both in the future." So she's leaving the state of Nebraska, and she's really, really, really close to her family. There's like a ton of sisters. And, you know, I will say this. I have spoken to one of Hannah's older sisters, and they are not in the IBLP anymore. They used to be in the IBLP. They still have relatively strict and conservative legalistic beliefs, but they're not like the IBLP legalistic. So, but they have enough in common where I think it would be, you know, a good match for the two of them. But they did say that, you know, Hannah's a really sweet girl. And I will say this, her sister was so lovely. Like the Wissmann family, and I've had friends of them that have reached out, and everyone says really nice things about them. So even though we don't love the Duggars, at least, you know, at least he's marrying a nice girl. Like she's got, everyone says like such great things about her. So I do wish them the best. And I hope that, you know, she's relatively independent, and she's like 27, and she's done a lot of work, and she travels a lot. And if you ever follow her Instagram, she goes and makes like cinnamon rolls, and she loves to work, and she wears pants. Yes, Hannah wears pants. And it looks like they're going to have maybe a less traditional marriage than Jed and Katie. Katie doesn't even wear pants. I don't know if that's a Katie thing because her parents joined the IBLP later in her life and she just no longer wears pants. But I've yet to see Katie actually wearing pants, whereas Hannah does wear jeans, and all of her sisters wear jeans. So, and again, her older sister told me that she the family left the IBLP years and years and years ago. So if you're wondering if Jana was with Stephen, you would be wrong. That did not happen. In fact, I did see Stephen escort his grandmother at the very end of the wedding. I shared the vows on my Instagram, and I just want to obviously share some comments with you about what you all said in my comments on my Instagram. One person said, surrender her, submit to you, so she's an object. How nice. Another person said, oh, submit, I am not okay with that. And another person said, submit. Someone else said, as if the submit isn't cringy enough, it cracks me up that she's 3 years older than him. Like, I'd be like, submit, boy, bye. A lot of people thought she was wearing a sleeveless dress, but she actually wasn't. She had like a dress that had sheer sleeves on it with like sparklies on it. So her arms were covered, although you could see through them, which is kind of scandalous if you think about the Duggars and their wedding dresses. One person pointed out, I've only seen a couple Duggar weddings, but they seemed so much smaller than this one. Did any of them have big weddings? Yes, Jill's wedding was enormous. Jess's wedding was enormous. Ginger's wedding was enormous. When they were doing the weddings on TLC, they were like no holds barred. Like they had massive weddings. Today, where they don't have the TLC money and they're not raking in that dough, and the women's families are actually in charge of the weddings, because back in that world, you know, it's the women's family that pays for the wedding. It's just a different take. And I would certainly imagine that even though like restrictions are holding up, churches might still have like, you know, they're not going to have full capacity or whatever. I mean, I noticed that there was quite a bit of space between the way people were sitting. And, you know, it was an out of town wedding. So you're not going to get as many Duggar friends to travel to Nebraska. You're going to get family that will travel to Nebraska, but you're not going to see like an overwhelmingly like number of friends that are going to make the trek if they live in Arkansas to go see Jeremiah get married. If they would have gotten married in Arkansas, the wedding probably would have been a lot larger. Hannah and Jeremiah are married. She is going to submit. She has been surrendered to him. And somewhere out there, I'm just hoping that she doesn't regret this and everything works out great, and that he becomes a progressive husband that doesn't treat his wife like property. We can only hope, right? We can only hope that one of these men will actually, you know, break the mold and treat their wife like an equal. Let's hope it's Hannah. We've got hope. Fingers crossed. All right, you guys, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.